All right. So, hello, everybody. This is Matt Duval. I'm the Democratic candidate for the PA State House, District 102, talking today with Timothy McCarthy. And Timothy, if you want to introduce yourself and say a little bit about your connection to Lebanon County.
Yes, my name is Timothy McCarthy. My wife and I lived in Lebanon County for a period of time, and now we're not living in Lebanon County anymore, but we do a lot of work with families, and we know a lot of families because of our medical conditions. So we work with a lot of families who have children who have specific medical conditions. My wife and I specifically have epilepsy. My wife and I have had epilepsy and intractable epilepsy for some time.
All right. And, you had contacted me through my website and,
Yes.
Mentioned, some of the issues going on right now with the pandemic. I know there's been a lot of discussion about wearing masks, not wearing masks, and how we can best, sort of support our entire community and make it through this safely and keep everybody healthy. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, with having a chronic medical condition, when the pandemic started becoming more real in Pennsylvania, it was around, in our neighborhood and around the corner. My wife and I talked quite a bit, and it was said we needed to look at this as a medical precaution, we have medical conditions. Our son was in the NICU in Penn State Health for some time, and going through all that, we kind of had to look at it as a medical condition, as a medical situation. So we talked with our doctors, we talked with all our specialists, mine, my wife's, our son's, and then we put together what people would call, or what my wife and I call, a patient plan. What do we need to do daily? What do we need to do next week? What do we need to do in the next 30 days? So that's when everything became more real for us here in Pennsylvania, and for my family, my wife and I and our son. We started saying everything from masks to hand washing to just a little bit more observant with what we do when we go out.
Right. Yeah, and I think, obviously this is a novel situation we're experiencing. Most people, the last pandemic was in 1918, so most people were not around then.
Yes.
And this is a different kind of a virus, obviously a new virus as well. So, I know that some of the recommendations shift as we learn more, as the scientists and medical professionals learn more. So far, though, what seems to be helping in places where they're doing a good job of controlling it is individuals taking those steps of wearing masks, washing their hands, and maintaining distance from people when they can. And so in my mind, those are the steps we should take, both to protect the people in our community, but also so that we can get to this goal of reopening in some capacity, all of the things we like to do. In my mind, that's a public health issue. It's not politics. It's not about being, Republican or Democrat or independent. We've seen governors in various states of both parties who have implemented these kinds of, guidelines for people. I feel like for us as individuals, those are the things we can do. And then, the government could help ramp up testing, ramp up, coordination of tracking cases and those things in coordination with, obviously, medical professionals, other experts. So, I think, as you're saying, it becomes even more important if you have a medical condition or you're around people who have medical conditions.
Yes. My wife and I, with our epilepsy, we have a nerve stimulator, which is in our chest. It's called a vagus nerve stimulator, which is in our chest. It goes up into our neck and sends electric current into the brain. And this kind of makes things a little bit, I don't say difficult. I say more, we have to learn how to manage it more, work on managing it differently, because we feel the current in the pulse going on all the time. Sometimes you'll actually hear it in my voice, where I kind of have a weird screechy or kind of a horsey voice. And as it's going off now, there you go. And wearing everyone said wear masks and everything, we said, all right, what do we have to do? We started figuring out cloth masks. I mean, there's lots of debates on all of that, but we said with our medical professionals, what do we need to do, and how can we work with our medical device and working with wearing masks, and when. So we just learn to, when we have to go out, we go out, but we do that when we know it's okay for us. Right. So that we're working with people around us and working with community members. And that's one great thing with now, is that there are a lot of more stores and organizations are going digital, or virtual, right, which helps tremendously for people with medical conditions.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I think a couple good points there. One is, there is some validity in the argument about masks in regards to how they're designed. There's obviously better designs and worse designs. And also, for some people, they can tolerate certain kinds of masks better than others. So, I don't discount those ideas. I think that's important things to look at. The other point you made, I think that was good, is that, some of the benefits of this for some folks is that there are now more options, that if you shouldn't be around groups of people, you can still, get groceries, go and have them brought out to your car, have them delivered to your house, or you can get your medication through like a curbside pickup versus having to go into the store and be around many more people than just the one person who brings it out to you. So I think, there's definitely been an effort by businesses to accommodate these new requirements, because, that not only helps the community, but that helps them to continue to operate. So, I think in some ways there's an antagonistic view about, doing these precautions, but I think we're all actually trying to get to the same place, which is just to be able to go about our daily lives as normally as we can, which is not going to be exactly the way it was in February or January, but hopefully not like when everybody was locked up in their houses in March and April, so like to try to resume some sense of normalcy. I think these things are the things we can do, and we should be doing to the capacity we can.
Some say adapting is a bad word. I've heard people say you're adapting too much, or you're not, and I said, no, we're managing, and we're making things work with everything that's going on around us. My wife, my mother-in-law, our son's Bubby, lives in Dauphin County, and we're a little bit further away from her, so we can't necessarily go and sit on the porch and everything. But we've done FaceTime and Zoom, the video chat functions, so that we can spend time with her, and we have a special time each week, so she's still included in her grandchild's life in some way. Would it be great to have these fun things that we can do in person all the time? Yes, but we've made it so that our son can have relationships with members of his family that he can't necessarily always go to right away.
Right. Yeah, and that's true too. And I guess the other, maybe like one final thing I wanted to ask you about is, clearly there are some individuals who, for whatever reason, can't wear masks.
Yes.
A medical condition, a physical health condition, a mental health condition.
Yeah.
Those are all, those things do happen. However, I get the sense that, because people are saying, I'm going to claim to have a medical condition so I don't have to wear a mask, even though I don't. What are your thoughts about that?
My personal thoughts, and I'll say my wife as well, is we both have medical conditions. We have medical devices that we have to manage our lives a little bit differently. We managed our lives a little bit differently before the pandemic, and now we're managing our lives. We're adapting because of the pandemic. When everyone got very upset about having to reorganize and change things and adapt, my wife and I were polite to people who got very upset and actually angry with us because things had to change. And I politely said to some, people have to work with a medical situation. My wife and I have to work with our medical situations. We have a nerve stimulator. We still have to wear a mask. So that just because of our epilepsy and our nerve stimulator does not simply mean we can just walk around and run around outside our yard and go to stores and not wear a mask, or go to places and not wear a mask. When we go to doctor's appointments in person, we still have to wear a mask. We've been told, if you're not feeling well and it's really, really bad, why are you even going out?
Right.
Why are you going out at all if you're having that much of a medical problem? You need to get a better, you need to have a support network. And we've learned that over the years, but that's been more implemented more so now with the pandemic.
Right. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So if there are people with medical conditions who can't wear masks, the best thing to do is to work with your medical professional, talk with them, and figure out the best thing to do, whether it be find a better support network, find a routine, and work with them and work with your support network. And that makes things much more manageable and less stressful. There's a lot of initial panic when you hear about medical condition or how to prepare for a medical situation.
Right. Yeah, that's actually good advice. That's a good perspective, I think. Yeah, and those are basically all the questions that I had for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to share or mention?
Well, thank you for reaching out to me and answering some of my questions and talking with me today. My wife and I we make things work. We've grown a lot. We've known each other since high school, and just because of a medical condition, a medical situation, does not mean everything is over. One thing that people panic about is COVID-19. It is very scary. It is very serious. But working with your neighbors, your community, working with people can I don't say solve it. I say simply help you and help you move forward and make it to the next day and go and day by day. And my wife and I are, like I said earlier, we are, sorry if I'm a little bit emotional about this.
Not at all.
When we were in the NICU, and that was for over a month, that was a very changing experience for us. We had to go through that experience, and we went in. Our son was born a little bit early with a cleft condition, and he had some feeding, and they had to observe him and everything to be sure he gained weight. And every day we were there from the day he was born, and we had to scrub down. We had to observe certain precautions, and we had to just pray that the next day was a little bit better. Going through this with the pandemic, COVID-19, we look back at that and say, if we can survive that, we can survive anything.
Right.
I know that it doesn't relate to everybody, but that's for us, my family, my wife and I, and our extended family. That's what we look at is we survived having to go through an entire NICU experience of countless medical precautions for over a month. And this is not a lot of the medical precautions that we heard about from health professionals and so forth were very similar to what we had to go through for an entire month. And we were in there and praying that the next day he was going to be a bit better. And today he's He's a toddler running around, happy. I'm surprised he hasn't knocked on my door and said, "Daddy, Daddy, where are you?" Mom's downstairs. So I was like, I will be up here for a little bit, but he's distracted enough probably with food and a bunch of other stuff. So
Right. Yeah, I'm waiting for my kids to also barge in because they're occupied right now, but eventually they'll figure out that I'm not around. But
yes.
yeah, I mean, I'm really glad to hear that he's doing better. I think that's a great connection that you made there, and I think, as you said, what's important during this time is that we work together with our neighbors, and doing that can both allay some of the fears and concerns we have about the pandemic, but also help us to, as you said, we're not going to solve this anytime soon, probably, but we can adapt and adopt new ways to manage things and to work together to, resume some sense of normalcy.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, I appreciate it. And
well, thank you.
I'm glad that you reached out, and I was glad for the chance to talk to you about this today.
Well, thank you very much. You have a wonderful day, and enjoy the morning. So,
all right. Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.